right.
Wait, it takes a second.
Oh, okay.
And we're live.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Talk Everything. And to our stream, we're going to be talking about allies. And so let's go ahead and just jump right in and start introducing ourselves. My name is Ed. My pronouns are he, him, and I am straight. I'm one of the hosts on the show. And let's go over to Chris.
All right, my name's Chris. I am a straight male, cis male, and yeah.
I'm Jasper, non-binary, they, them, queer as hell. Everyone's cute, you know. But, yeah.
Oh yeah. Thanks for the compliment.
I know,
You're
right?
very welcome, Chris. You're so adorable.
A little bit of a booster starting out the show.
Oh yeah.
All right. What does it mean to you for someone to be an ally?
To be an ally, well, they just have to be, like, really good and really supportive. It doesn't really matter what they're doing, so long as they're doing it with the intention to help you, I guess.
All right. What can someone do to help support change in the community, and really just be there for a friend or a family member?
Ask questions. Be proactive. Let your queer friends lead, and just support them. That's all it really takes.
Now, for someone who, let's say they have a friend that is a part of the LGBT community, and they have questions, but they're not too sure on how to go about asking them. What would be some suggestions for this person? Let's say, we'll make someone up like, well, we'll just use Chris for an example. What would you suggest to Chris if he wanted to ask you or someone else questions about the community, and just see if he could be there for them and be more proactive, or just get more information about it?
Well, I just say just ask. Like if Chris wanted to know, he knows now that he can just ask me, right? And if you don't have a friend like that, find yourself an elder gay to talk to. If you have questions and no one knows how to answer it, I'm sure that somewhere you can find someone who's willing to answer your questions. But just Google is your friend, also.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. Does it so if someone asks you like a question that they could have just Googled and got the answer to, does that sometimes bother you?
Oh, it depends on who it is. If it's just like a total stranger, because I get this a lot. People trying to be friendly, but they're really just being nosy, and they're just like, so can I ask you a personal question? And they keep asking that. Like, for instance, if you were to be like, hey, Jasper, can I ask you a personal question? I'd be like, sure, Chris, we've been friends for 7 years. Of course. But if you're just someone that I only met like 3 weeks ago, and you're just like, so what's in your pants? I'd be like, fuck off. Or like, you could easily Google whatever you're about to Google.
Yeah.
The one thing that I've heard consistently, at least in the areas that I've done my research, because I've been doing some outside research other than just here and asking questions.
Oh, you have other sources other than me?
Yeah. Yes, I do, because
he's paying source fuel.
Well, okay, yeah, sure. But like you were saying, some of the things
My
that
fucking internet caught way the fuck out. God damn it.
But like some of the things that you were just saying is that you could easily go online and figure out these questions. Like there's tons of podcasts that go over tons of different information, and there's books, and you can also Google everything else.
For sure.
There's a lot of information out there that you can access, because there's people that are coming out that don't have a friend, and they're able to go out and research this stuff and get information about it. So being an ally, you could do the same.
Yeah, the age of the internet has really enabled us to be better allies, for sure. or just be supportive of each other, because there's more recognition, and then more of a community of people who are okay with it. And so seeing the community firsthand and how we interact with each other, you kind of learn the do's and don'ts on the internet, at least.
Have you ever had a case where someone thinks that they're an ally, but you would disagree?
Oh, yes. Shitty performative allies, like pretending just because, oh yeah, well, my gay friend, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The people who use the gay friend crutch are like really assholes. And sometimes there are people who appear to be allies, but instead are just like fetishizers. There's a lot of that, like people who say that they want to be really supportive of lesbians, but it turns out they just want to sleep with them. Same with gay men or trans women or trans men or non-binary people. There's always someone out there who's wanting to look like a friend so they can take advantage of us.
Kind of the almost sounds like, would you say kind of like tokenizing, saying, hey, I have a gay friend, I can't be
Yes, it's tokenizing. Yeah. There are a lot of people who tokenize and gatekeep and all this stuff, and it's just not being a good ally. If you're just the token friend, then it doesn't really matter what they do or say.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that. I know I've probably like maybe like 5 or 6 years ago might have said something like that, but
right.
I've seen it like with like older, like my parent. I think my parents have said something similar to that, unintentionally being kind of condescending in a way.
Right, exactly.
Like, oh, I have a friend at work that's gay. I'm not, I'm not homophobic.
Yeah, but that's your work friend. Like, how much do you really know?
Yeah.
I think the most common one is like you got that one person like, oh, I'm not racist, I got a black friend or I got a Mexican friend or whatever. I think that happens a lot even in the LGBTQ community. It's like, oh, I'm not homophobic or I'm not this, or I'm not that, I got a gay friend or I got a lesbian friend. One of those situations.
Yeah, it implies that like someone. It's kind of a weird definition because it's like implies that you can't be homophobic if you have a friend that is gay.
Right. I think we've established that pretty well, that you can still be homophobic with your gay friends. Mm-hmm. Chris.
Yes.
Yeah, I've just called you out.
I'm not.
Yeah, you've done a lot of growth.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, what Jasper's referring to is I used to be pretty homophobic. I was a fundamentalist Christian who had believed the interpretation of the Bible as basically everything about LGBT being an abomination. And however, I had a lot of gay I had a lot of gay friends, and eventually I'm like, oof. And then
we radicalized you.
Yes, the gay agenda.
That's what I like to say.
They radicalized me with the gay agenda.
We radicalized you. The gay agenda got you.
Christians beware.
Right. No, Chris, I want to know what path, since you're like a more extreme example of going from homophobe to ally. What was your journey there?
Really, and I'm gonna add this with an exception, because when LGBT people talk to people like me, they put themselves at risk, and so I'll keep that in mind. Right. But really, being around people who are LGBT and being a Christian, one of the things that really shook that, at least that interpretation at the time, was that, okay, so God is essentially saying that this is immoral in the way that I looked at it. And so there's got to be, but that wasn't good enough for me, because I saw that these are great people. There's nothing like necessarily wrong. So there's got to be something else. Like, for example, if God said, for example, that murder is wrong, I would say, well, yeah, that's because it harms people, not because God said so. So it's like God is just saying what's moral. He's not making it moral by saying it. And so I couldn't find a solution to that. And that's really what kind of broke it down, is like either the Bible's wrong or I'm not interpreting this right. and
Right.
I ended up going with the first one, and that's kind of what shook my faith, is just talking to people and realizing that they're human, realizing that they're not evil people, they're not like pedophiles was one that I heard a lot, or that they're dangerous. Having two fathers in the household is harmful to children. All these lies that we're told, when you break it down, like that doesn't happen in nature. Homosexuality doesn't happen in nature. Once you start breaking
It
those down,
absolutely happens in nature.
but those are
Happens
the
in
things I
nature
was
a lot.
told. Yeah. Oh yeah, it happens a lot. But those are the things I
Yeah.
was told.
And
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really good point, because I mean, if your environment, everyone in your environment and everything in your environment is saying something is wrong, it's a lot easier to believe that until you get outside your environment and start having these conversations and start talking about these things. Because until then, the only information that you're taking in is from those around you.
Yeah, and I
So
will say that this is in fact a best case scenario
Oh yeah.
of me being friends with Chris, and I put myself at risk being friends with him. I did, because for a long while he wasn't necessarily the most good-natured person, and sometimes you just can't change them. I mean, it's lucky that Chris learned, but it doesn't always happen. So we're not always saying like go out of your way to like be overly tolerant of like homophobes in your life, because you don't got to do that
Absolutely.
like at all.
Yeah, and this is kind of this is why it's so important to me, coming from to be an ally, is because it's dangerous for LGBT people to talk about it, but it's not dangerous for me. I could talk about it all I want. I'm not going to get fired for it.
Right.
and
Right.
that's a good point. That's a
Yeah,
really
you
good
can say
point
whatever
to
you
make.
want. You're a straight cis white man. You guys can get away with whatever. You guys aren't in any danger talking about it.
Yep.
We even like my friend Beck, who was on the show last time, she even has like a target on her back being a lesbian around here. Something that we thought was like a mostly common thing, but even here in Kansas, it's still dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Be open. So we need our allies to stand up for us and talk to us.
Yeah.
But educating yourself is just one really good way to go.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I think although I'm not necessarily religious, I think even when Christian, for example, when I see like moderate Christians, I have some problems with them. But one thing I do like is that other Christians will tend to listen to them more than other people, and so you could potentially having that common ground can help out a lot, and having those allies helps out
Right.
a lot. And yeah, I definitely don't advocate necessarily just talking to anyone and everyone and putting yourself in danger. It just happened to it helped me to have people talk to me, but it's not their, they don't have to. I wouldn't want people to put themselves at risk.
Right. Thankfully, you were cool
Yeah,
enough
it's-
that we saw that we could work with you.
Yeah.
It too. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
what does it mean to, and I think we kind of answered this along the way, but what does it mean to be, how do we become a better ally? How do we go from, okay, I recognize that there's a problem in society, and I want to help LGBTQ plus people. What's some of the first steps that you can do?
Well, like you said, and I feel like you have a lot of experience with this because being an ally yourself, you just got to listen. That's it. Just listen. That's the first step, is just listen to LGBTQ people. Just listen. That's all it takes.
Yeah, I agree.
Follow their lead. If they tell you, like, hey, something's fucky, you don't get to sit there and argue with them about why it's not, because you don't experience that. That's a place of privilege that you're speaking from. If an LGBTQ member tells you, hey, this is not okay, you just sit and you listen and you don't do it again, and then you learn why it's wrong.
Absolutely.
That's all there is to it.
Ed, you got anything to add to that?
Well, I think a good portion of society, we're too busy wanting to talk instead of listen. And like you were saying, for the most part, we need to stop talking and start listening, which is funny coming from a podcast. Uh, but in all seriousness, though, but we do need to stop and stop talking and start listening to those around us because you know from what I've experienced in life, it's not going to be the exact same as what Chris has experienced in life and what has Jasper experienced in life, and so on and so forth. We all
Right.
have different stories and we have all different backgrounds. So if you find someone who is willing to answer your questions and talk about these things, stop and listen. And that is the biggest way you could be a better ally. I think, in my eyes, the better at least stepping stone to becoming a better ally is just to stop, sit down, and shut the fuck up. Because, well, they will tell you how to be a better ally. They will tell you what you should do or what you can do to help out the cause, and that will help you at least start on a pathway to being better. Like, for example, Chris, when you first started becoming an ally, you didn't know where to exactly start. And then Jasper brought up, some of the protests and some of the walks and everything else. And you didn't sit there and try to argue with her or anything. You jumped right in. You're like,
Them,
okay, let's do this. I'm
them, you
all in.
fucking asshole. Them.
Oof.
Oof.
Yeah, I think another aspect of it too is, you don't have to rely necessarily on your LGBTQ friends entirely, because sometimes some of them may say, if you ask them a question like that, and about LGBTQ and all that, they may say it may be something they don't want to talk about, and that's totally fine. And so another aspect of it, at least in my experience, has been reading up on the history of LGBTQ plus people, and reading about the experience that they have, and because a lot of that I didn't know, and I imagine most people are not aware of. There's still stuff that I still don't know that I'm learning.
Yeah.
A short lecture on the history of Pride at some point. I really would.
Yeah.
It's important for people to know, and it's important for people to understand why we are oppressed and where we come from and how we're trying to fight our way through to equality.
Yeah, I think that'd be definitely a good topic to dig deep in. So, Ed, you want to ask the next question?
What is the right way to go about asking questions?
Depends on how close you are with the person. Just be like, hey, and if you can, bring it up in conversation or whatever with your friends. If you can find like a mutual topic, and if you guys get the conversation rolling, I'd slip your question in so it doesn't look like you're being too obvious, I guess. But like, if it's something that you can't Google yourself, if it's something that you can't find out on your own, and you really need to ask your friend, just ask. Make sure like it's a good close friend, or otherwise just keep wondering until you find someone nice enough to tell you.
Yeah.
Kind of what I did, where I just like, hey, would you want to talk about this?
All right.
And just started asking you questions.
So,
But
yeah, what about So, and I think we've talked about this a little bit about performative and active.
yeah, what does it mean to be a performative and an active ally? Like, what's the differences, and which one, I guess, would be a better one?
Okay, an active ally is Chris. Actively going out there, lobbying, fighting, recognizing that there's inequality, and doing his best to help. A performative ally is just someone who says that they're okay with it all, but then whose actions goes directly against it.
Would you consider?
Gotcha.
Would you consider, like, I don't know if we should throw out names, but he's a big character. Do you think of like Dave Rubin and Milo Yiannopoulos as kind of performative?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not really like Milo Yiannopoulos is trying to be an ally to the gay community just because he is gay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just think that he's just a man who happens to be gay who shits on it. He's got like a lot of internalized homophobia, so no, I don't really think that he could be called an ally.
So he's not even performative at all. He's just not.
He's not even an ally, no.
So if someone's performative, could they?
Performative, I think it would be more like your friend in high school who says that she really needs a gay best friend so she could be all in on it, or the person who is asking you questions to be nosy instead of to be supportive and knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Those are the performative people.
Yeah.
I don't mind the gays kind of people.
Yeah, I've heard one like where in high school a girl will say, "Man, I wish I had a gay guy friend."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Or personally, in my personal experience, I had one friend who told me, "I am just so glad that all my friends feel so safe to come out to me. I'm just so honored and so flattered that they all trust me." But then she doesn't do anything to help the queer community. She just wants to be there in it for the gay culture, to experience it and to be able to go to Pride just to have fun and like have a party
For the glory
without
of it.
recognizing for the
yeah.
glory of it without experiencing any of the struggle. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the
Now-
glory of the gay agenda without actually doing work.
Yeah, or actually trying to help out, the agenda and trying to, be
Right,
more,
yeah.
you know,
Reaping the benefits of the agenda without working
Yeah.
on it. Yeah.
Now, what would
Yeah,
you
pretty much.
tell? What would you tell a friend or just another person that is a part of the LGBT community, but is starting to see some of these attributes of a close friend or family member? What would you tell them how to go about, either stepping up and saying something or just walking away in general? What would be better for them, for their mental health and their relationships?
Correct them. Always correct them. And if they pitch a fight and they are getting too disagreeable with you, whenever you correct them on things like your name, your pronouns, your sexual preference, or if they start overstepping their boundaries, remind them to stay in their lane. And if they throw a fit about it, then just ditch them. Really honestly, because they're not your friends.
Okay.
I mean, it was different with Chris because I grew up with Chris. I was teenagers with him.
Mm-hmm.
We were teenagers together. So figuring that out, it was a little bit different. But now I would say that as I have learned how to manage my time better and having more assurance in who I am, I don't really have time for people who aren't really going to be there for me. So I just don't put up with it. I mean, it's all down to personal preference. Really, that's just me. I can't give you the handbook on how all LGBTQ people should do it. But I just don't have time for it. So if I don't have time for it, then I'm not going to work on it with you.
I think a good thing to state in just in general, not just for the Pride community, but just for people in general. If you have someone toxic in your life that isn't willing to change or wanting to change, and it's just dragging you down and making you feel bad,
But yeah, if
either
they're not growing with you, they're going to grow without you.
Yeah, but if they're making you feel bad, either for who you are, for your actions, or for your gender, or for your sexuality, whatever your case may be, if they're being that toxic to the point where it's actually
It's 2020.
damaging
We
your
don't
life,
have time for that shit.
exactly.
Mhm.
You should first say, hey, this isn't making me feel right, or whatever. Express how you feel if they are that important. But if they're not, just walk away, because if they're not important to express how you feel, and then they're not important enough to keep in your life if they're making you feel that way.
I would also like to point out that It's too being out is too common anymore. Like homophobia isn't all that common anymore. Like it's not worth it. Like if you come across a homophobe, try to do your best, I guess. Like to re-educate or whatever. Of course, you guys have more privilege doing that since you guys aren't even gay.
Hmm.
But you don't really put yourself at risk for a hate crime by correcting a homophobe. But that's not normal anymore. It's not normal to experience homophobia or transphobia. And so if you have a friend who's homophobic and says shit to you or transphobic and they pretend that they're wanting to learn, but they're just not worth it.
Yeah. Of course, still be careful going out and doing these things, but that is a good takeaway that
Hmm.
today's day and age, it's a little bit safer than it once was. Our society has came a long way, but we still have a long way to go in acceptance and equality, and that's one of the reasons why we're here today and why we're gonna be here every single Wednesday or every single week.
Yeah,
We're using our privilege to try to help change.
and that's another thing is that uh even like what 10 years ago this would be unheard of, you know? 10 years
Oh
ago
yeah.
it was scandalous because what happened 10 years ago? 2010, 2011, if you'll remember, Adam Lambert, a gay singer on American Idol. Like, that was 11 years ago, and he lost his first place spot because it was revealed right before the end that he was gay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
Celebrities
that
coming out of the
controversy.
closet. Celebrities coming out of the closet is no longer controversial. No, it's not normal to be homophobic anymore. It's not normal for that to be news anymore.
Yeah,
It's just like uh, we've made a lot of progress that way because of our allies.
yeah, I like the way not like as in it's good, but it's interesting the way how that's been swapped because like the
Mhm.
way that that's looked at now by a lot by like people who are homophobic is they view it as like a cultural thing because they don't believe it as like a an identity. They view it as like, hey, it's just popular to come out.
Right. Yeah, that I got that a lot as growing up. That happened a lot in the scene community, the emo
Hmm.
kids. There was a big bisexual boom in middle school and high school for sure during the 2000s. Because everyone started experimenting a little bit more and started being a little more okay with this or that. And so
Yeah,
I think my generation, because I'm Generation X, uh, I think you are too, Chris. I'm not sure. But we are the generation that really changed everything as far as, well, millennials and Gen X were really changing and shifting the culture as to what it is to be out and proud. I've personally been looking at that and thinking that it's really cool.
yeah. So
One thing that I've also heard is that there's uh normally in big cities like LA and New York, there's actually places for people who are LGBT to go and be a part of the community and stuff like that. So if you have someone or some place like that that you could
Usually
Google,
those are called gay bars, but they have like a lot of gay bookstores and
yeah,
little hangout areas for like queer people, for sure. For sure.
yeah,
We've carved out our own little safe spaces throughout the
yeah.
years.
I think that those places are really good to if you're about to come out and you're scared or whatever, that might be something you might want to check out. Is go take a look at see if there's any communities nearby where you could go and sit down and find someone to talk to and feel safe and be a
Okay,
part of
listen.
that community.
If you are struggling with your identity and you want to find someone to talk to, I can absolutely tell you the best people to help you through it, and it would be the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Just look them up, find your local chapter, Okay, message one of them, and they will probably be more than willing to help you out and talk to you about all this because they are your community guardians. And there's one in every state for sure. Sometimes several chapters and houses in each state. So I'm sure that you could find one of our secret queer Illuminati, I guess, Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to help you out and talk to you, if you are struggling with anything. I'm sure that if you want to be a better ally, you can ask them too.
That's a good tip. Where can someone look this community up, like Facebook or just Google?
Yeah, if you just Google, I'm gonna do it right now, Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, and it'll come up and it'll give you a thing about the charity, and it'll send you to the sisters.org. You can learn a little bit about them, but you can find a local chapter.
Okay,
That way.
that's a really good information to give to our listeners.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling alone or scared that it might be something that you could go ahead and look into, and hopefully they will be more than happy to help in any way, shape, or
Oh
form.
yeah, they are a good cornerstone of the queer community. Like, they will definitely be willing to help you.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. All right. Hold up. Wait a minute. There we go.
Let's put some pimping in it.
Yeah. So, what is it like? So, what's the difference between being LGBT in public and being LGBT in private?
Oh, okay. So in public, I don't really try to make myself very known. But privately, I'm about as open as can be. I guess there's still that safety thing. I don't know anyone, so why do I need to be out to everybody?
Yeah.
Like, however, in my online community, where I'd call it in private, or even at home, I'm as gay as can be, openly non-binary, have all my friends use my pronouns, understand that I might be checking out some girl or whatever, talking about, oh, she's hot, I was even mentioning that with my dad today, just talking about how hot my neighbor is. Just casual shit like that. Stuff that I can't do in public because I don't know who's gonna judge me or whatnot, or what's gonna put me in danger.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
How does religion play into your sexuality and gender identity?
I feel like that is different for a lot of people.
How do you personally? Yeah.
Personally, for me, it's kind of shied me away from the more Abrahamic religions, but it's really gotten me into mythology. Greek mythology. It's hard to find a queer person who doesn't know at least a little bit of something about some mythical shit. Even Shay, they still know quite a bit about the Greek gods and all that. And they're still a Christian, I believe, right?
I'm not exactly sure. That'd be something that
Debatable?
Yeah. Well,
debatable. Yeah, all right. But personally, I follow Gaianism, which is the worship of the earth as a macroorganism. We are all microorganisms working within its surface. We're all cells in a body. That's kind of what I think.
Facts. We came from the
It's
dirt.
just,
We're going back to the dirt.
And all that.
I said facts. We came from the dirt. We're going back to the dirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that, and just honoring the dirt that we're going to return to. Yeah.
Huh.
That's my personal experience.
So, how do you think like the Greek or the kind of, can I use, is pagan the right word, or is,
More or less, yeah. I guess.
how do you think?
Pagan has a huge overview of multiple anything that is in Christianity, Catholic,
Yeah,
Judaism,
I know.
anything
Paganism
like
is
that.
multi-theistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But how does it? How does that? Do you think there's a reason that do you think your sexuality and gender identity
Okay,
relate to
well,
that in some way?
first of all, ancient Greece was gay as fuck. You
True.
know?
Yeah.
First of all, yeah. Second of
There's
all,
Rome.
it just seems to be a little bit more fun than regular religions. And also there's like a god for everyone. So it's really about finding your personal journey. And I think that's why a lot of people identify with mythology and pagan religions. Because there's someone who's always fine-tuned just for you. Instead of one god for everyone.
I like it.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's see. Uh, how do you feel about the statement, "I don't care what you do, just don't push your views on me"?
It's just
That's
a
a
dumb
really
cop out that
interesting.
lets you be homophobic.
Yeah, I hear that a
It's just
lot.
your it's just the I'm not homophobic but just reworded. You know?
Yeah.
Like what views do I have that I'm trying to push on you that I should be allowed to exist with my proper pronouns and that I can openly love who I love? Is that the views that I'm trying to push on you? Having the same equal rights that you get and are afforded? I want
I
that,
hear.
so I'm just trying to push it on you. Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that comment a lot, and mainly attends to the whole uh just being LGBT in general. Like it for me, it feels like that when people state that they're afraid that you're going to try to turn them gay or something like that. It's like no one is
Yeah,
trying
how do
to turn
you
you gay. No one cares if you're straight or whatever. They're just trying to find equal grounds with you. You could be who you want to be. Just let me be who I want to.
right.
And that seems like to be the comment today's age of kind of a rebuttal to that. At least that's my experience because I hear that a lot, especially with
Mhm.
Christian family members and different things like that. They're trying to be more like
Yeah,
liberal in that way, but it's not actually
yeah,
going
that's like a
full out. Be
classic
like,
case
hey,
of
yeah,
somebody
that's.
getting 50% of the point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they get it, but like they don't get it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of, they only got about, they got the maybe the 10% the thing, because like
Yeah,
in a sense it's
yeah,
like, so it's kind of like you had me in the first half because I don't care what you
yeah.
do. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But then
Hmm.
when they say just don't push your views onto me,
Yeah,
implies that
these are
their
the
views.
same people. These are the same people who go around and tell you how they think you should live.
Exactly.
You know? It's funny how it's like the same set of people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
nobody.
It
You're not gonna tell
also
me not to push my views on you whenever you're sitting here preaching to me.
it's also reinforcing heteronormativity
Uh-huh. Yeah.
because it assumes that their
Fuck
views are normal.
heteronormativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. It's not normal. It's just one of many. That's all.
Well, funny enough, heterosexuality and like regular normal what our depiction of relationships, man, woman, being married, staying married, all that other stuff. That is actually very new aged in the sense of just how long humanity has been around. For the longest time, it was more normal for a man and wife to have multiple partners outside of a
Right.
normal
Like
relationship.
polyamory and polygamy and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Even in Odiism being, the religion of
Odin. Yeah.
Odin and all that. Even
The
them,
Norse
like,
gods. Yeah.
yeah, even they were more, I guess, liberal in their views than Christianity, and they used to slaughter people, pillage and slaughter everyone. And I mean, they have a terrible history in the
Well,
past,
see,
but
that's another funny thing because a lot of modern Odinists are like racist as fuck now, which I think
oh
is
yeah,
just
100%.
strange.
Wait,
And they're
why?
like homophobic too, which is really
Yeah,
weird. Like, what happened, guys?
Wait, why is that?
yeah,
Odin is the All Father, not the Son Father.
yeah, exactly. Like back in the day, they used to have multiple husbands and multiple wives. They
Hmm.
all slept together. When the husband would go away for war, he would end up finding partnership in his fellow army men and other women on the way.
Hmm.
And the wives
Oh
that would
yeah,
stay home, the shield maidens, which they were called,
yeah. We
would
take
protect
lovers and shit.
would protect, yeah, and they would protect the village and the children. Like even back in the day, women, they had their own rights, they had their own say, like they were badass. So this whole concept of, women shouldn't have rights and all this other stuff, like, granted, that's going away, which thank God that's retarded. But like even then, like that's even a new age that thought process. That's
More
more
or
of a
less, yeah.
Christian. Yeah. That's my little rant about that. It just
Clearly.
aggravates me because people, like you were saying, it's more of a racist thing now than
Mhm.
anything. When if you actually look into the history of it and do your research, you would realize they are more liberal than a lot of other religions. Like, yeah, I have racist family members in my family that are odious, and they try to use that as an excuse for why they're racist. I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. That's not how that religion is at all.
Yeah, no, not at all. But we got about 6 minutes left. So,
Yeah,
are
Yeah.
there any other questions? Or
that was the last question.
wow, we finally made it through that.
Oh, yep, we
Yeah.
made it to the end.
Right, month and a half. Way to
All
go.
all,
Woo.
all 4 pages
Yeah.
worth of questions and subjects. Do you have anything you would like to say before we end this? Any final words and anything you would
Uh,
like
yeah.
anyone to go away with?
Yeah, just know that I'm sticking around. You guys are not doing this without me at this point. I know that's what you originally intended. Too bad. I like doing this. I'm gonna keep doing it. Whether you guys like it or not. You don't have a private Discord. I'm just gonna show up. And that's a
All
threat.
right. Oh, that's a threat. Oh god.
All right.
Alrighty.
All right.
Well, you want to close this out, Chris?
Yeah, so thank you all for joining us at this our great stream today. We typically stream on Wednesdays or Thursdays every week, so stay tuned for that, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.